Everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Katie, otherwise known as the Vintage Academic. I am a junior transfer student at UC Berkeley, and I make fun vlogs and informational videos about the transfer process, life as a transfer student, and sometimes some vintage clothing just to mix things up a bit. If that all sounds good to you, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and let's get on into the video. So, like I said, I am a UC Berkeley junior transfer student, and I just finished up my first semester. So what I thought I would do was kill two birds with one stone and do a little bit of a first semester in review, talk about the things I liked about the semester, the things I didn't like, all the things that I did, while I wrap my Christmas presents for my family because I am very behind on prepping for Christmas. I'm going to start unboxing all of this stuff, and then we will get to talking about the points that I made while I wrap my presents. Can you tell we have a horse rider in the family? So to start with, as I'm sure everybody knows and has experienced, this semester has been a little rough. With everything being online, the semester is not exactly what everyone hoped it would shape up to be. I was hoping that I was going to be in Berkeley, living in my own apartment, maybe with a roommate or a friend. Instead, I am living in my hometown that I grew up in. The semester was also rough because it was obviously my first semester as a transfer student, and as a transfer student there are certain challenges that you face. I think the biggest one being like the feeling of imposter syndrome, the feeling as if you don't know anything, especially because at the beginning of the semester I had a couple of interactions in class that were less than ideal, and I'm sure you guys have heard me speak about that ad nauseum, so I'm not going to reiterate it here. But yeah, the beginning was awkward. I think I kind of caught my stride maybe about like halfway through the semester, but even though I caught my stride, I was still suffering from, you know, a lot of mental health things. It's just the nature of the semester. It was really difficult to feel like you were actually in class being a student. So all that's just to say that the transition was rough. I feel like I caught my stride eventually, but I thought one of the things I could do was kind of go back and take a look at my goals and fears video and the things that I wrote down for that and see whether or not any of them came true. On fears, I had imposter syndrome. Yes, that happened. It happened a lot, and I talked about it already on my channel, but it's mostly just feeling like you're not smart enough to be at Berkeley. The second one that I wrote down was not making friends, and I have to say that that fear was not realized. I definitely made friends. I didn't make a lot. I didn't make as many as I think I would have were I on campus, but I did make some really good friends. And I also made a couple of friends online just through Instagram and YouTube. I made friends with Reading Riel on Instagram and the Redhead Academic here on YouTube. I also made friends with Danielle, who is Balanced Academic on Instagram, so if you guys haven't checked her out, you should. I'll leave a link in the description. I also had too hard, getting bad grades, not understanding. So some of that happened. There's definitely a period of time where I was like, I have no idea what's going on. It was specifically in history and theory of archaeology when we were talking about theory. I mean, theory is difficult. So that class was a little bit difficult, but as far as grades, I actually did pretty well this semester, and I'm really pleased with that. I'll talk about that more in a future video, but like, the grades part actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I had final projects, but I didn't have any final exams this semester, and so I'm going to chalk my good grades up to the fact that my professors graded relatively easy this semester. Next, I had identity and not feeling like a bear. Now this one, I think it's hard to feel like a student when you're not on campus anywhere. The fact of the matter is, a large part of identity as a student is going away to college and being in a different town and getting to experience the things that you experience as a college student. I guess I could say I've gotten over a little bit of that, and definitely the videos that I've made on this channel have helped, especially the Dead Week and other UC Berkeley tradition videos. I kind of like that one because it was my own way of kind of getting into the culture of being a Berkeley student. The other thing I had was worrying about finding something to research. I'm not sure if I talked about this one in my fears and goals video, but it's still something I worry about because I'm still trying to decide whether or not I'm actually going to do an honors thesis. Kaylin, if you're watching, I know I know you say I'm gonna do it. I think I found something to research for an honors thesis. Fairly confident that it's something that is both interesting and feasible to do. The last one that I had was being a big fish in a bigger pond, and oh boy. I'm sure that this feeling would be exacerbated if I were on campus and actually surrounded by extremely intelligent and smart people, but I did feel it with the online semester because every time I would say something in class and somebody else said something smarter than me, I was like, okay. I talked a little bit about that in my imposter syndrome video, and it's all about like shifting your perspective from being the smartest person to just being there and willing to learn. Yeah, got over that. Basically, I'm going over this list and I'm realizing that I should just kind of sum it up and say that I think I adjusted. I adjusted fairly well to both the coursework and the culture, as hard as that has been with everything online, California being on fire, with COVID, with everything. So I'm fairly pleased to say that I have adjusted. As for my goals, the first one I put on there was research, and technically I fulfilled this one. I was part of the undergraduate research apprenticeship program this semester, and it was fine. So we weren't actually in the lab doing lithic analysis, but it was interesting getting to see what people were doing when they were in the field. So I mean, I guess I did that. Then I had make connections with professors and other students, check mark there. Join a club, yes, check mark there. I joined the Anthropological Undergraduate Association. We are going to see if this giant thing of Shoshin will fit in here. Okay, sweet. I also had a goal of vlogging, check. Goal of maybe doing a double major, uncheck that. I did not do that, and I don't think I plan on doing it. I would much rather put my focus towards doing an honors thesis than doing a double major, if I'm being completely honest. Speaking of honors theses, that was my next goal that I wrote down, was do an honors thesis. I have not completed this goal yet, but it's more of a thing to do within my first year at Berkeley because I have to submit an honors thesis proposal next semester, so that's on the list of goals to complete. So I also want to talk about some of the things that I did this semester, besides my goals and that kind of stuff. YouTube has been, I think, the most enjoyable part of this whole thing for me so far. The number of connections that I have made, other transfer students, the redhead academic, getting to meet people and get to know them and know that I'm helping people with my content has been probably, aside from my education, the most gratifying part of this semester. And I plan on continuing to do it as long as I can because it's something I really enjoy doing. I think the only other thing that was as gratifying as that was when my professor responded to my article summary, where she said that it was a great critical summary and that some graduate students don't attain the level of clarity in which I spoke about that article. That was pretty cool. That was the moment when I was like, okay, maybe I am smart enough to go to Berkeley. Some other things that I did that aren't school related that I wanted to bring up. I started riding horses again. That was an unexpected one. I knew that I was going to probably ride horses at least a little bit because my mom got a horse back in February. So I thought I would just kind of like ride her horse every now and then if I felt like it, like for fun. But then I fell in love with a horse at the barn. Her name is Jade, and I've been taking lessons on her, learning how to ride Western, which is new to me because I've only ever ridden English. She's a wild-caught Mustang, and she definitely acts like one, so it's definitely been like an experience. But then I do also ride my mom's horse to a certain extent, and he's lovely, he's beautiful. I don't want to call him a hothead because he's not a hothead, but he can definitely be a stinker when he wants to be. And that's just something that's totally unexpected. I stopped riding horses back when I was 11 or 12 when my dad died. We couldn't afford to keep riding horses, so we gave it up, and it's just been weird, and especially I think it came at a really great time because it gives me a reason to leave the house. It gives me a really good reason to leave the house. It gets me a fresh air, sunlight, exercise, and to just kind of get my brain off of school and YouTube and all the things that are really hard to compartmentalize when you do everything from home. Trying to wrap all my mom's presents before she comes back out into the main part of the house. I have one more cool thing to talk about, and then I want to get into kind of like a review of my classes because I think that would be interesting, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what my next semester plans are. So the last cool thing I wanted to bring up was I did a bunch of master classes, podcasts, panels, speaking engagements, I guess you could call them, this semester, all about like transferring and the transfer application, things you should be putting on your application, all the things I talk about on my YouTube channel. So that was cool because everything I did was free, and I'm very passionate about access and making it so that people can access the same resources that I had access to in community college. My camera battery died, like it does every other video because I have terrible habits, but I'm back now. Anyways, I just have 3 more things to wrap, which is perfect because I have 3 classes that I want to talk about in this little end of the semester wrap up. First class to review, Special Topics in Biological Anthropology, Race and Racialization. Fantastic class. Best class I think I've taken in my college career. It was not only taught well by Professor Lohman, amazing professor. Like 10 out of 10, definitely I'm taking another class from him if I can. But it was specifically about the development of biological anthropology, the history of it, and how it has contributed to our contemporary understanding of race. So we went over things like Franz Boas and the immigrant study, the Franz Boas students, the development of the idea of race in the first place, and how it's, for most of human history, we didn't really have a concept of race. The development of race was really meant to justify the use of slavery in the Americas. People eventually turned to science to justify the racialization of people, and like saying that one race was superior over another, and talking about race and biological anthropology in a modern sense with things like healthcare and all that kind of stuff. So it's not only a very, very relevant topic, but also a very important topic, and especially because, the first recognized branch of anthropology was biological anthropology, and the fact that it is so problematic needs to be addressed. And so I'm really glad I decided to take that class for my biological core. I really don't have anything to complain about in that class. I thought that the homework was really good. It was, we had to do a reflection every couple of weeks. Basically just drew connections between our readings and kind of gave our own personal understanding of what the readings were. Next, we have History and Theory of Archaeology. Now, History and Theory of Archaeology was a super interesting class. I will give it its props. I think theory is super interesting, and it was really cool to get to go through the evolution of different modes of thought when it comes to theory in archaeology. But theory is also super dense. Anything that has to do with theory is hard, and I'm sure everybody knows that. When you hear the word theoretical physics, you think, oh dang, that's gonna be hard. The language that they use in those articles were dense and confusing, and I usually had no idea what they were talking about. And as much as I love the professor that taught that class, I can find her teaching to be a little bit confusing, the things that she says I don't always follow. That one has been a challenge in trying to understand what's happening, trying to adjust my learning techniques for it, especially the class that made me feel like I was a little bit behind. But I think I learned a lot. I really enjoyed the quote-unquote final project, which was the finding an article to share with the rest of the class. I think the article that I chose was very interesting, apparently very relevant. And then last but not least, we have GIS. I think you guys can probably tell my thoughts and feelings towards that class. I don't think there's anything wrong with GIS, but I do think that it is not the ideal class for teaching in an online semester. It was centered around a lab, and labs and online learning are not compatible in my opinion. Virtual lab aside, my biggest complaint for this class was the fact that in anthropology at UC Berkeley, we have particular fulfillments that we have to require for graduation in the upper division. So we have to have one class from each of the different branches of anthropology, and we also have to have a methods course, and a methods course is where you learn a practical method. And so we were supposed to be learning how to perform the practical method of geographic information system using things like QGIS or ArcGIS. However, we spent the first half, maybe even the first 2/3 of the class, going over a book called The Power of Maps, and it was all the theory of mapping, which is not learning of methods, and that book is the worst book I think I've ever read in my entire life. Worse than My Immortal, if I have to be completely honest, because at least My Immortal makes some kind of sense. I have no idea how this author got published, because he uses one sentence will be an entire page long. He'll use an ellipses, like the ... every other line, and then in italics for emphasis at the end of that ... for an entire page. And he's like talking about his kids when they were babies and like pooping in their diapers. And the worst part for me was when we were supposed to be talking about the 10 cartographic codes and nobody understood what they were, so we asked the professor to clarify, and the professor couldn't clarify it for us either. I was also in the Starting Point mentorship where we had lectures every week about like different resources that are available to transfer and potential transfer students, as well as like learning about the admissions process. I quite enjoyed that class. It was a requirement to spend 40 hours doing something for the program, and that included things like meeting with your mentees and doing research and that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to do that one again. Well, that about wraps up this part of the video. I have finished wrapping presents, for now at least. So let's go head over to my desk and talk about next semester real quick. So, next semester. I haven't really figured next semester out all of the way. I know I want to do the undergraduate research apprenticeship program. I am taking 3 classes. One of them is about crops or agriculture and capitalism, which I think is going to be super interesting. One will be Archaeology of North America with a professor who I hope will agree to be my co-reader for my honors thesis. And then I am taking a required course. It is the history of anthropological thought, and I'm actually really excited to take that one because I want to be able to talk about anthropology more on this channel, and I'm hoping that that class will help me feel more comfortable talking about anthropology. I want to take another class, but I also don't want to kill myself, so I'm trying to figure out if I want to take a DCal or what's called Democratic Cal, and those are classes that are taught by UC Berkeley students. They range from everything from like Surgery 101 to like queer studies of Harry Potter. I might take one of those classes because they're usually 1 to 2 units. I don't think I'm going to do a research position again. And then I'm still trying to decide if there's another class I want to take. I think I'm going to end up having to take Spanish if I want to do a master's degree, because Spanish is the language for the geographic area that I'm interested in terms of archaeology. And then the big question, drum roll please, moving to Berkeley. Oh boy, isn't that something I would love to do? It is actually something I would probably find greatly enjoyable, and if I'm being completely honest, I have spent the entire semester looking at apartments and trying to figure out whether or not it's affordable to move there for me by myself. That being said, I still have no idea. I mean, we have news of a vaccine coming out, but obviously it's going to the people who need it the most first, so you know, frontline responders and Black and brown communities and low income communities, and absolutely those are the people who should be getting it first. So I don't know when I'll be getting it, if we have enough for me to get it, if campus will reopen in the spring. I do know that UC Berkeley's plans for the spring semester are to have some first 2 weeks completely remote, and then some flexible hybrid in-person, mostly online classes. The Anthropology department, however, is fully online, and I don't suspect that they will switch to going back to person during the next semester. So who knows? I think that moving to Berkeley would be greatly beneficial for me, but we'll figure it out. And you guys will figure it out with me. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna do a update on the new semester and like getting ready for the semester, cleaning up my computer and my calendar and setting up Notion and all that kind of stuff in a future video, so stay tuned for that. I'm very excited about it, and I finished my first semester at Berkeley. I did it, and part of me is like, who is that? Not to be like emotional or anything, but when I graduated high school with a 2.2 GPA, I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was envious of all of my friends who were going away to college, was scared because I wasn't sure what I was going to do or what I even could do. So to go from that and taking a gap year and failing my first semester of community college to being a junior at UC Berkeley and getting good grades isn't something I ever thought I was capable of doing. So if I can do it, you can do it. But now it's time for a break. I haven't had a break since last summer. I've been doing school for a long time without a break, and I am just really looking forward to winter break, knitting a sweater and watching TV. And you know, just because I'm me, of course I'm still going to get some academic stuff done. I'm going to start working on the research for an honors thesis, so I'll definitely be making a video on that. And yeah, thank you so much to everybody who's been watching. It really does mean a lot to me to share my experience and to know that somebody out there at least is watching it, hopefully enjoys it, and that hopefully it's useful to some people. Over the course of posting YouTube videos this first semester, I've gotten some really kind and lovely messages from other transfer students. Every single time it makes me tear up, so it really does mean a lot. And yeah, wow, first semester done and 3 more to go. So I'm gonna wrap it up now. It's actually quite late in the evening, so I'm gonna go. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more UC Berkeley and vintage related content. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.